If you want to know the character of a woman, don't just listen to her words. Watch where her gaze lingers. Notice what makes her laugh and pay attention to what she fights for. Character isn't found in the grand gestures or the perfectly curated moments. It's in the quiet, unguarded spaces where authenticity lives. It's in the way she holds herself when the world feels heavy, or how she shows up for others even when she's running on empty. Character is etched in the lines of her resilience, the depth of her empathy, and the fire of her convictions. It's not about what she presents to the world, but what she carries within it. The messy, beautiful, imperfect truth of who she is. So if you want to know her, really know her, look closely. Because the character of a woman isn't just seen, it's felt. In the way she loves, in the way she struggles, and in the way she rises again and again. The power of observation in understanding character lies in its ability to reveal what words often conceal. When we truly observe someone, we move beyond the surface-level interactions and curated personas that people present to the world. We begin to notice the subtleties, the way their eyes light up when they talk about something they love, the hesitation in their voice when they're unsure, or the quiet determination in their actions when faced with adversity. These are the moments that tell us who someone really is, not the polished versions they offer up for public consumption. Observation is not passive, it's an active, intentional practice of paying attention to the details that others might overlook. It's about leaning in, not just with our eyes, but with our hearts and minds, to truly see the person in front of us. When we observe, we're not just looking for what's obvious or easy to spot. We're searching for the cracks and crevices, the imperfections and vulnerabilities that make someone human. It's in these spaces that character is most vividly displayed. For instance, how does someone treat a stranger when they think no one is watching? How do they respond to failure or criticism? Do they shrink away, or do they stand tall even when it's hard? These are the moments that define character, and they often happen in the quiet, unscripted parts of life. Observation allows us to witness these moments, to see the truth of who someone is when the masks come off. But observation isn't just about seeing others, it's also about understanding ourselves. When we take the time to observe, we become more attuned to our own biases, assumptions, and judgments. We start to notice how our own experiences and perspectives shape the way we interpret what we see. This self-awareness is crucial because it allows us to observe with greater clarity and empathy. It helps us to see people not as we want them to be, but as they truly are, and in doing so, we create space for deeper connection and understanding. Observation also requires courage. It takes courage to look beyond the surface, to resist the temptation to simplify or categorize someone based on first impression. It takes courage to sit with the complexity of another person's humanity, to acknowledge that they are more than the sum of their actions or words. And it takes courage to let what we observe challenge our assumptions and change our perspectives. But this is where the magic happens. When we observe with courage and curiosity, we open ourselves up to the possibility of truly knowing someone, of seeing their strengths, their struggles, their hopes, and their fears. Ultimately, the power of observation lies in its ability to reveal the truth. It shows us the beauty and the messiness of being human. It reminds us that character is not something that can be easily defined or neatly packaged. It's dynamic, multifaceted, and deeply personal. And if we want to understand it, we have to be willing to look closely, to pay attention, and to see with more than just our eyes. Because the character of a person, whether it's a woman or anyone else, isn't found in the grand declarations or the perfectly staged moments. It's found in the quiet, unguarded spaces where authenticity lives. And if we're willing to observe, truly observe, we might just catch a glimpse of it. The subtle, often overlooked details that reveal true essence are like the quiet whispers of a person's soul. They are the unspoken truths that linger in the spaces between words, the small gestures that carry more weight than any grand declaration. These details are easy to miss if we're not paying attention, but they hold the key to understanding who someone really is. It's in the way someone's hands tremble when they're nervous, but they keep going anyway. It's in the way they pause before answering a difficult question, not because they're unsure, but because they're choosing their words with care. It's in the way they light up when they talk about their passions, their eyes sparkling with a kind of joy that can't be faked. These are the moments that reveal character, and they often go unnoticed because they don't demand attention. They simply exist, quietly and unassumingly, waiting for someone to notice. Take, for example, the way someone treats those who can't do anything for them. It's easy to be kind to people who have power or influence, but how does someone behave toward the person serving them coffee or the stranger who asks for help on the street? These interactions, often fleeting and seemingly insignificant, speak volumes about a person's character. They show us whether someone operates from a place of empathy and humility or from a place of self-interest and entitlement. These are the details that matter, the ones that reveal the core of who someone is. Another subtle detail lies in how someone handles failure or disappointment. Do they lash out, blaming others or the circumstances? Or do they take responsibility, learn from the experience, and move forward with grace? It's easy to be gracious when things are going well, but true character is revealed in the moments when things fall apart. It's in these moments that we see someone's resilience, their ability to adapt, and their willingness to grow. These are the details that show us whether someone is rooted in strength or fragility. Then, there are the small, everyday choices that add up over time. The way someone spends their free time, the books they read, the conversations they prioritize. Do they choose comfort and convenience, or do they seek out challenges and opportunities for growth? Do they surround themselves with people who inspire and challenge them, or do they stick to what's familiar and safe? These choices, though seemingly minor, paint a picture of who someone is and what they stand for. Even the way someone carries themselves can reveal their essence. Do they walk into a room with their head held high, radiating confidence, or do they shrink into the background, hoping not to be noticed? Do they make eye contact, offering a genuine connection, or do they avert their gaze, hiding behind a mask of indifference? These physical cues, though subtle, can tell us a lot about someone's self-perception and their relationship with the world around them. The beauty of these subtle details is that they can't be manufactured or faked. They are the raw, unfiltered expressions of a person's inner world. They show us the truth of who someone is, not the version they want us to see. And if we're willing to look closely, to pay attention to these quiet moments, we can begin to understand the depth and complexity of their character. It's not about judging or categorizing, but about seeing with clarity and compassion. Because the true essence of a person isn't found in the loud, dramatic moments. It's found in the quiet, unassuming details that often go unnoticed. And when we take the time to notice them, we open ourselves up to a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the people around us. The courage it takes to be authentic in a world that demands perfection is nothing short of revolutionary. Authenticity is not about being flawless or having it all together. It's about showing up as you are, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's messy, even when it's hard. It's about embracing your imperfections and owning your story, not because it's easy, but because it's true. And in a world that constantly tells us to be more, do more, and have more, choosing authenticity is an act of defiance. It's a refusal to conform to the narrow standards of perfection that society imposes on us. It's a declaration that you are enough, just as you are. But let's be clear, authenticity is not for the faint of heart. It requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is terrifying. It means letting go of the masks we wear to protect ourselves from judgment and rejection. It means stepping into the arena, fully seen and fully exposed, knowing that we might fail, that we might be criticized, that we might not be enough for everyone. And yet it's in this space of vulnerability that we find our greatest strength. Because when we stop hiding, when we stop pretending, we give ourselves permission to be human. We give ourselves permission to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and to connect with others on a deeper level. Authenticity also requires self-awareness. It's about knowing who you are, what you value, and what you stand for. It's about being honest with yourself, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It's about recognizing the ways in which you've been shaped by societal expectations and cultural norms, and then making a conscious choice to live in alignment with your own truth. This kind of self-awareness is not something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance. And it's not always easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments when it feels easier to just go along with what's expected of you. But it's in these moments that authenticity becomes most powerful. Because when you choose to be true to yourself, even when it's hard, you inspire others to do the same. Another aspect of authenticity is the willingness to embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the messy, uncertain, and often painful spaces where we're forced to confront our fears and insecurities. It's in these spaces that we learn who we really are and what we're capable of. And while it's tempting to avoid discomfort, to stay where it's safe and familiar, doing so only keeps us stuck. Authenticity requires us to lean into the discomfort, to sit with it, to learn from it, and to allow it to transform us. It's not about seeking out pain or hardship, but about being willing to face it when it comes, knowing that on the other side of it lies growth and freedom. Finally, authenticity is about connection. When we show up as our true selves, we give others permission to do the same. We create a space where people feel seen, heard, and valued for who they are, not for who they think they should be. This kind of connection is rare and precious, and it's only possible when we have the courage to be authentic. It's about building relationships that are rooted in truth and trust rather than in pretense and performance. And while it's not always easy, it's always worth it. Because at the end of the day, the most meaningful and fulfilling relationships are the ones where we can be ourselves fully and unapologetically. So what does it mean to be authentic in a world that demands perfection? It means having the courage to show up as you are, to embrace your imperfections, and to live in alignment with your truth. It means being willing to be vulnerable, to face discomfort, and to prioritize connection over conformity. It's not an easy path, but it's a path that leads to a life of meaning, purpose, and deep, authentic connection. And in a world that so often feels disconnected and fragmented, that's a revolutionary act. The connection between vulnerability and strength is one of the most profound and often misunderstood truths about what it means to be human. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of courage, resilience, and authenticity. It is the willingness to show up, to be seen, and to take risks, even when there are no guarantees. It is the courage to open your heart, to love deeply, to dream boldly, and to fail publicly. And while vulnerability may feel like exposure, it is actually the foundation of true strength. Because it is only when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable that we can truly connect with others, grow into our fullest selves, and live a life of meaning and purpose. Vulnerability requires a deep sense of self-awareness and self-acceptance. It means acknowledging our fears, our insecurities, and our imperfections, and choosing to move forward anyway. It means recognizing that we are not invincible, that we will make mistakes, and that we will experience pain and disappointment. But it also means understanding that these experiences do not define us. They are part of the human experience, and they are what make us real. When we embrace vulnerability, we stop hiding behind masks and pretenses, and we start living from a place of truth. And in doing so, we discover a kind of strength that is unshakable because it is rooted in authenticity. One of the most powerful aspects of vulnerability is its ability to foster connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give others permission to do the same. We create a space where people feel safe to share their own struggles, fears, and dreams. This kind of connection is transformative. It breaks down walls, builds trust, and fosters empathy. It reminds us that we are not alone, that we are all navigating the complexities of life, and that we are all deserving of love and belonging. Vulnerability is the bridge that connects us to one another, and it is through this connection that we find strength. Because when we know that we are not alone, we are better equipped to face the challenges of life with courage and resilience. Vulnerability also requires a willingness to embrace uncertainty. It means stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and being open to whatever comes next. This can be terrifying, but it is also where growth happens. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, new experiences, and new ways of being. We learn to adapt, to innovate, and to thrive in the face of adversity. And while there are no guarantees, there is also no growth without risk. Vulnerability is the gateway to possibility, and it is through this gateway that we discover our true potential. Another aspect of vulnerability is its role in building resilience. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we learn to navigate failure and disappointment with grace. We learn to pick ourselves up, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep moving forward. This kind of resilience is not about avoiding pain or hardship. It is about facing it head-on with courage and determination. It is about recognizing that failure is not the end, but rather a stepping stone on the path to success. And it is through this process of falling and rising again that we build the kind of strength that can withstand anything life throws our way. Ultimately, the connection between vulnerability and strength lies in the understanding that true strength is not about being invincible or perfect. It is about being real. It is about having the courage to show up, to be seen, and to take risks, even when it's hard. It is about embracing our imperfections, owning our stories, and living from a place of truth. And it is through this process of embracing vulnerability that we discover the kind of strength that is unshakable because it is rooted in authenticity, connection, and resilience. Vulnerability is not the absence of strength, it is the very essence of it. And when we have the courage to be vulnerable, we unlock the power to live a life of meaning, purpose, and deep, authentic connection. The importance of looking beyond the surface to truly see someone cannot be overstated. In a world that often prioritizes appearances, quick judgments, and superficial interactions, taking the time to see someone deeply is a radical act of empathy and understanding. It's about moving past the curated versions of people that they present to the world and seeking to understand the complexities, struggles, and beauty that lie beneath. It's about recognizing that everyone has a story, a history, and a set of experiences that have shaped them into who they are. And it's about understanding that these stories are often messy, imperfect, and deeply human. When we look beyond the surface, we open ourselves up to a richer, more nuanced understanding of the people around us. And in doing so, we create the possibility for deeper connection and compassion. Looking beyond the surface requires intentionality. It's not something that happens automatically. It's a choice we make to engage with the world in a more meaningful way. It means asking questions and truly listening to the answers, not just waiting for our turn to speak. It means paying attention to the small details, the way someone's voice cracks when they talk about something they care about, the way they light up when they're passionate, or the way they withdraw when they're hurt. These details are the windows into someone's soul, and they often reveal more than words ever could. When we take the time to notice these things, we show the other person that they matter, that their experiences and emotions are valid, and that they are seen. This kind of deep seeing also requires us to challenge our own assumptions and biases. We all carry with us a set of preconceived notions about the world and the people in it, and these notions can cloud our ability to truly see someone. When we look beyond the surface, we have to be willing to let go of these assumptions and approach each person with an open mind and an open heart. We have to be willing to be surprised, to be wrong, and to learn. This is not always easy, but it is essential if we want to see people for who they truly are, rather than who we assume them to be. Another aspect of looking beyond the surface is the willingness to sit with discomfort. When we truly see someone, we may be confronted with their pain, their struggles, and their vulnerabilities. This can be uncomfortable, and it can be tempting to look away, to change the subject, or to offer quick fixes. But true seeing requires us to stay present, to hold space for the other person's experiences, and to resist the urge to minimize or dismiss them. It's about being a witness to their truth, even when it's hard, and offering them the gift of being seen and understood. Looking beyond the surface also means recognizing the humanity in everyone, even those who may seem difficult or unlikable. It's easy to see the good in people we admire or love, but true empathy requires us to extend that same level of understanding to those who challenge us. It means recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens, and doing the best they can with what they have. When we look beyond the surface, we begin to see the common threads that connect us all: the desire for love, belonging, and acceptance. And in doing so, we cultivate a sense of compassion and connection that transcends differences and divisions. Ultimately, looking beyond the surface is about seeing people in their fullness, their strengths and their struggles, their light and their shadows. It's about recognizing that everyone is more than the sum of their actions or appearances, and that everyone has a story worth hearing. When we take the time to truly see someone, we honor their humanity, and we create the possibility for deeper, more meaningful relationships. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because when we look beyond the surface, we open ourselves up to a world of connection, understanding, and compassion that enriches not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us as well.